Okay, council is returning from closed session. Mr. Attorney, do we have anything to report?
Good evening, Mayor and council members. City Council is in closed session this evening on two items: public employee appointment, titled Police Chief, conference with labor negotiators, and there's no action to report on either of those items.
Thank you, sir. We will now close the closed session and reconvene to open session. Can you call the meeting to order?
Vice Mayor Payne. Present. Councilmember Hewer. Here. Councilmember Campion.
Here.
Councilmember Powers. Here. Mayor Cruz.
Here. You all stand, please, for a moment of silent prayer. And then Councilmember Campion, could you lead the flag ceremony? Sure. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can we have the video statement, please?
This meeting of the Galt City Council will be cablecast on Metro Cable 14, the local government affairs channel on Comcast, Consolidated Communications and AT&T Uverse. The meeting is also webcast at www.sacmetrocable.tv. Tonight's meeting will air this Friday and Saturday at 9 a.m. This meeting is also closed captioned. A DVD copy is available for checkout from any library branch.
Thank you. Any agenda approval, additions, or deletions? Okay, with that, I understand under presentations we have an omission that has been corrected. We have a new employee. Ms. Curry.
Good evening. Joining me at the podium is Greg Lucido, and he is the city's new Deputy Finance Director. He most recently came from Sutter Health. He was there as a lead internal auditor, but before that he had about 12 years of experience with Macias, Genie & O'Connell, which is a certified public accounting firm and business management firm as well. He was a senior manager with the firm. He was responsible for audits as well as preparation of the comprehensive annual financial reports. So I am pleased that he's joined us. He is a certified public accountant as well as a certified internal auditor. So I am pleased that he is on board. So this is great.
Well, thank you. This is your chance.
It's a privilege to have the position. I'm really excited to get to work with all of you and get to know all of you. So thank you very much for having me today.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Welcome. All right. Next is Commission on Aging Annual Report to Council.
Sure. Good evening, Council. Thank you for having me here. Let me see. Right click, you say? Okay. There we go.
There we go.
All right. This is your Commission on Aging, come to think of it. I wanted to remind you of that I'm just a person here representing you. You're the artist. We'll start off the Commission on Aging. Our annual report. Our mission, just to review the purpose and function. To act as a forum on all matters concerning senior citizens, subject to the direction and approval of the City Council, of course. The city's advocate for aging. That's a new one for me. It took me a while to get used to that, becoming the advocate. I wanted to do other things, but I'm now trained. I'm an advocate. It concerns questions. You can see questions, complaints related to the food service programs, accessibility within the city, the recreations, And the resolution to complaints, suggestions when referred to by the city, if you've got any, you can give them to us and we'll work them. And we'll respond back with some kind of a written, with the appropriate departments, of course. If we receive a complaint ourselves, we will reply with a written complaint. We always want to reply with a written complaint. And we'll forward the complaint to the appropriate office in the city for their coordination on it. Next slide. Senior population of Galt. This is an interesting one. The United States, with 10,000 people, turn 65 every day. In California, I just found out it was 1,000 every day in California, 65. The city of Galt, this is, we took off 2,000 stores. We had 24,185, and approximately 20.8 were over age 55. I did a little estimation there, and it says right now we should have around 6,200 people over the age of 55 in Galt, which is a lot of people. And we have a function, we have maybe 70 turn out. That's a big time for us. We got over 6,000 people there. The accomplishments, we've established and hosted a local senior health information and information fair. I've got handouts if you'd like to see the flyer on that. Again, it takes place in May of this year. We developed and hosted informational meetings with local senior locations. One was the Society of Lyme. We had those come in and talk to us. We had the Senior Companion Program, and we did an evacuation plan for those who need assistance in the case of major disasters. We thought seniors definitely need that. Getting out of the building may be a real issue if we have a problem. Hosted a county adult and aging commission chairman. He came down to our meeting, one of our meetings, and we were very happy about that. It was very informational for us. We're doing our updated resource guide for seniors. It'll be published in May of this year. Developed a training manual. We're developing a training manual for new commissioners on the commission. We see the need for that because everybody says, what do we do now? Now that we're commissioners, what do we do? Type thing. So we're developing that to try to get it done. We've participated in the senior games that's sponsored and run by the Rotary Club here, and that's been a real success for years. Recommendations, as we see it now, one of the big things we need to do is establish more commissioners. I would say myself, personally, I'd see anywhere from 3 to 5 more commissioners than what we have. We're old people, and we just don't get around to get as active as we used to be. And 5 just doesn't seem to be enough to get something done we need done. And we haven't had an alternate commissioner. We've never been able to support an alternate commissioner since I've been there. It's always been just the 5. We're lucky to have 5. Establish a senior center. To me, this is a facility with staff, similar to the Boys and Girls Club. I visited the one in Lodi, and I was really impressed with that. And I'm headed up to Elk Grove next week, and tell me Rancho Cordova's got an excellent one. To me, we need a senior center. We've got the Chivola Center, but that's used for other purposes too. It's not really ours, seniors. Seniors, we need something comfortable. We need comfortable chairs. We need tables that you can sit in, not fold-up chairs, not fold-up tables. But something that's more homey, maybe a TV that can be there. Card games, you can be a plate all the time. We need computers, and we need the internet available to us. A lot of seniors would, I think, and will be using that more and more all the time. I think it's an asset. I know we can use it at the library, but it's like everything. It's much better at our place with the seniors than it is in the library. Possible senior setting, allow more caregivers. This is senior setting. This allow the caregivers for seniors to have some free time if we have that capability. A caregiver is a very important person in the older person and our people that need it. And they need a time out once in a while, just for their own peace of mind. Attendance records. I'm supposed to report this, so I did. No commissioner has missed 3 unexcused meetings. We've got 3 new commissioners this year, and we've had 3 resign, so we're status quo. We never have received the alternate commissioner. We just haven't been able to fill that slot yet. Fiscal year 2015 activities and goals. We want to establish computers and internet accessibility for seniors. We want to establish a training for seniors and a facility in their facilities, such as the senior housing apartments around, the trailers, the mobile home parks, places like that where they have clubhouses for the seniors. We want to establish that. And we want to become proactive and advocates for aging. We want to be the advocate. We want to be more active and more proactive and get out there and get things done. Establish priority list of needs and concerns for the aging in the city. This is a thing that, to me, we need to do a survey on the city to see what, inside the city, to see what we need for the aging people. And I say aging, 55 on up. What do they need? What are we going to need in the next 10, 15 years? You know, what are they now? We've got a lot of active people that are seniors, but they're still active. They're still working. They're still out there going. And maybe they need something special besides what we're doing now. So I'm suggesting we do a survey. We'll put a, if that's okay, then we'll go on with it. But I can see it through the, you know, the utility bills. Maybe it's involved in the utility bills. We'll have 3 places throughout the city, like at the library and different places. They'll have the survey there, and they can do it right there, and then drop it off, and have drop-off places. But that's just one idea we have. And here we need to establish an informational meeting. What I'm talking about here is we're going to go to the locations, to the senior locations, and we're going to have meetings there and tell them about our 211 capabilities, our vitals that go in the refrigerator from the fire department, you know, things like that, stuff that just, nothing else. If they don't know about it, we're telling them about it. If they do know about it, we're just going to refresh them and tell them. So we're going to carry a message to them. And each month we're going to go about this and establishing this. And the budget, of course, the budget. We had a budget last year of $1,500. We haven't used any yet, but we're getting ready to with our senior fair. We'll use that money up pretty fast. And I hope next year we can hold the budget the same. That concludes any questions or anything I'd be glad to answer if I can.
Very good report.
Very nice presentation.
Oh, thank you.
Looks like you guys are going to be busy.
Thank you.
Thank you. He's a senior? Thank you, Alvin. All right, next, purpose of the K-9 program, Galt Police Department.
For those of you that don't know me, my name is Officer Nathan Meyerdick. I currently work for the Galt Police Department. I've been a peace officer for about 7 years now. And I've been a K-9 handler for about coming up on 2 years now. I was asked to give a brief overview of the purpose of the K-9 program as it pertains to the City of Galt, and that is why I'm here today. City of Galt K-9 program. We have currently 2 dogs assigned to the program. As far as the infrastructure, Chief of Police obviously at the top, with the Operations Lieutenant, who's currently Lieutenant Bazuzzi, and then as Patrol Sergeants have collateral duties. The current K-9 Sergeant assigned to K-9 is Sergeant Chris Smith, one of his collateral duties, and then below him is myself with my K-9 partner Hunter, and then Officer Carter and K-9 Jack. And a picture. Jax is about a little over 2 years now, Belgian Malinois. My floppy-haired friend is K-9 Hunter. He's coming up on 4 years old right now, also a Malinois mix. Typical breeds to be used in police and military. German Shepherds are also the other common breed to see. Those are the 2 that you'll normally see now that are still out there. Our unit currently as it stands, the 2 K-9s that were purchased through donations from the public. For our nonprofit association, it's Foothills K-9. which the Galt Canine Association merged with. So we are a member of the Foothills Canine Association. Both canines were purchased solely from public donation funds to facilitate that. Within that, our current dogs, Hunter and Jax, are assigned with our handlers to the patrol division. And what that means is basically we are assigned to patrol a beat, and as a patrol officer, just as a normal patrol officer would be, in a normal car, we just have a dog in our back seat with a specialized tool that we can help. And we're still getting to that a little bit further on. Also, too, it's a regional agency support tool. And I say that as in, we are a small agency, obviously. We don't have a ton we can always offer our neighbor agencies that will help us a lot. Canine is one of them. Not because of the way things are structured, there's not always that availability of it to have a canine. So there's times where Sac County or Elk Grove or something is looking for a narcotics dog or for something similar, and they've helped us numerous times, and it's something that we're able to give back to them. As far as training and certifications, California mandates annual certification for the stuff that we do, which is we have dual-purpose canines. So the primary goal or use of canine is a locating tool, whether it is for finding people or finding drugs. And we have both of our dogs are cross-trained or dual purpose, which means that they are trained for criminal apprehension and to support patrol and locating what they may need to locate if I can help them. And our dogs are trained in narcotics. And canines, for how they're able to do that is through their olfactory system, their sense of smell. Obviously, dogs can smell a lot better than we can. To get a glimpse at it, we have 5 million olfactory cells, receptor cells. They have about 220. 44 times greater sense of smell. Probably even more than that when you factor in the physiological differences and then how much they are adapted to prey. And that's what we use and twist into police work. On the criminal apprehension and support side, all through locating tool is what we want, and through that we use canines to do building searches and area searches, track a suspect or missing persons if we need to. We're also trained in handler protection and officer safety, officer protection. They're also trained to locate evidence that may have been discarded at crime scenes, and if we ever have a large incident which requires crowd control or riot, they're able to assist with that as well. As far as the uses for them, common building searches, area searches would be something got broken into, some kind of burglary. Obviously, the police are not walking away without checking to make sure there's nobody in there, whether it's good or bad, or the bad guy's still inside. Old adage for handlers is pause before boots. I'd hate for my canine partner to get hurt, but I'd hate for my human patrol partner next to me to get hurt even more. Canines can go in first and clear an area so that myself doesn't have to get hurt down in the field. Just an adage we use. Also on the criminal apprehension and patrol assistance side, like I said, we can help and assist in locating missing persons, locating evidence at the crime scene. So if somebody throws their gun or knife into the bushes, he can actually, all of our dogs have been trained to do evidence searches and will alert to that evidence that's in the bush. Also, presence of canine is a large community relationship builder. Obviously, you see the pictures. Everybody loves the dogs, and it's what ties people's family into the police department. And on the flip side of it, the people that we come in contact with on the field are usually encouraged. Their compliance is encouraged just by the presence of the dog. They don't want to even. Most of the people don't even want to go there, and that equates into lower use of force, just by the potential of being there. It's hard to measure that, obviously, but I've talked to people over and over in my experience that I've run into them where they'll tell you straight up that I didn't even want to go there. Also goes into crime prevention and what we have as far as reputation as far as the department and unit. On the narcotics detection side, The canines are able to locate illegal drugs in vehicles, buildings, and open areas, all of which is an annual certification through the state of California. Obviously, through their sense of smell, the search is much more efficient, and they're able to locate through the search hidden compartments and such, stuff that we may not always find, or we have to rip the car apart to find it. Our canine partners can smell it and detect it and tell me about it before the other patrol officers even get there. Both of our dogs are trained for narcotics. It is also possible to train for explosives, firearms, cadaver, search and rescue, or anything similar as the need arises based on the needs of the department or the agency. 2014 at a glance, as far as canine is concerned. We have about over 450 hours of maintenance training, and when I say maintenance training, that is we have already upstarted, have been certified, and we have 450 hours throughout the year scattered in increments to keep up on obedience, building searches, narcotics training, tracking, evidence searching, everything I just talked about, how we can support patrol. We have training into that. Over 100 canine field deployments. And what that means is attempting to find and sometimes locating back people that have run away from crime, suspects, wanted suspects, evidence, narcotic searches, whatever it may be that we just talked about. Approximately 10 were captured or surrendered to the dog, to the canine. We had no canine use of the force or bites, they're commonly referred to, and no lawsuits or complaints as far as I know that resulted from that. As far as on the narcotics side, methamphetamine, marijuana, heroin, and cocaine were removed from the city, from the streets, from the use of the canine narcotics detection program. And that is short and sweet. Any questions for you?
I just wondered how much one of those dogs cost.
The initial cost?
Mhm.
Or initial cost, so Foothills paid approximately $9,000 a dog.
Wow.
Most of them come, depending on where you get, depending on where you decide you want to, which vendor or kennel you want to get the canine from. Most of them come with some sort of training, and then you can mold that into police training after that. The initial purchase is obviously the most expensive.
Thank you.
So you end up training the dog yourself?
We have a department trainer as it is right now.
You do.
We get the mandated training hours is 16 hours a month through the state of California, part of that certification program I briefly touched on. We get 16 hours a month with a trainer. So I handle the dog, and Officer Carter handles his dog with the assistance of a trainer, kind of an outside third eye that can see stuff that I may be doing wrong or my partner may be doing wrong, and can understand how we're going to fix that with that.
How long does it take to get a dog, once you've purchased it, ready for the street?
It varies, and it can depend on what we just talked on, where it came from and how much training it already has.
Mm-hmm.
If you're talking about a green dog, which has no experience, basic obedience, you haven't taught them how to search for people or use their nose or anything similar to that, you're talking several months. You're talking months. If you're talking about a dog that came with basic sports training, which has been able, they've already proved themselves as far as courage and ability to use their nose to find people or drugs or whatever it may be, or articles, you can probably get up started in a couple of weeks.
Wow.
The main thing is that certification from the state of California.
Impressive.
All right. Thank you, Officer Meyer.
Yes, thank you very much.
All right, public comment, please.
Under Government Code Section 54954.3, members of the public may address the council on non-agenda items. Speakers may address council on any agenda item during consideration of the item. Speakers shall restrict their comments to issues that are within the subject matter jurisdiction of the City Council and limit comments to a maximum of 5 minutes. Please fill out a speaker sheet located on the table inside the entrances to the council chambers and forward the completed speaker sheet to the clerk.
Okay, first up we have Lisa Klotz on the Galt Winter Bird Festival.
Good evening. My name is Lisa Klotz, and thank you for giving me this opportunity to come and speak before you, and actually thank you individually for your ongoing support of the 8th Annual Galt Winter Bird Festival. I'm here to complete one of my final tasks as coordinator, and that is to give you an update to update the council regarding the outcome of this year's festival. So when we began, the city tasked us with 3 specific goals, along with maintaining the highest quality of integrity in the educational focus of the festival. The first of that goal was to develop a potential 2-day festival so that we could encourage outside guests to come and stay in our city. And we did that quite well, I think. We had a Friday night prior to the Saturday event dinner, which I saw many of you at and supporting personally. Thank you. It was a sold-out event. It was very well received. We've had lots of great comments regarding that, as well as the performers who were at that particular event. Each contacted me and asked if they could come do it again. So I think that that could be called a success in this growth of our festival. The second part was a Sunday tour. While not as well attended, it was attended by some volunteers and vendors who were a part of the festival activities on the day, and they, again, had great comments about how this was being offered to those who didn't have opportunity on other days when they were working at the festival to be able to actually see what happens out in the field. And so we think that we have, I want to report that the steering committee believes that it has accomplished that first goal that you set out for them. The second goal was to strengthen the relationships with the schools. And we're happy to report that we did just that. We had 2 high schools as food vendors this year instead of 1. We increased the student service learning projects that were happening out into the elementary school system. We developed after-school programming for education and fun, learning about our local birds at each one of the schools, who then brought a science project to the fair and to the festival and had it displayed in the speaker hall. And we had more youth community service involvement than we've had in the past. And so I believe, again, the committee believes as well that they have attained your second goal that you set in front of us. The third was to develop greater community awareness. And we believe that this goal was met as well. We had ongoing articles in the Galt Herald. We went to service clubs and gave personal presentations. We had assemblies at each one of the schools, and the result of that was more than a 30% increase in attendance at the Galt Winter Bird Festival this year. So we're very pleased to report that to you. We also would like to report that we had more speakers this year, and at each speaking event, there was a higher number of attendance at each one of them as well. Some of them had all of the seats completely full, and that was just a joy to see this year. It was really wonderful. And as well, to add to that, is that we had over 45 educational exhibits and vendors this year, many of which I've heard back from as well, asking that they'd like to be put on the list again for next year. They were really pleased with that. In past years, there was a lull in the exhibit hall from time to time when tours would go out or speakers would start, and what we saw this year was really there was no lull at all. There were families and students and kids and adults and seniors, and there was a full circulation throughout the exhibit hall throughout the festival. So we would like you to agree with us that that was also gaining our third success. But none of these goals could have been reached if it wasn't for a lot of help from you and the community. So we want to thank each one of you, each one of the city council members for your individual support, each in a different way, all very important. as well as many of the other City of Galt staff that have been involved in the festival. To name a few, I try not to name too many because I can't name them all, but to name a few would be Mr. Behrman, who instilled his vision and shared his vision with us of what the festival could be. Mr. Rudolph and his sage advice, whether we wanted it or not. Members of the city clerk's office who kept things moving for us. Leslie Sheets and the tireless Public Works Department. I don't know how they keep going. Monica Lopez and the staff from Park and Rec, who was always there to make things happen, and the many, many other volunteers who gave their time and energy. The least of is not, or the most is, however you say that, would be Jennifer Cannell, who really set the stage over the last few years to help bring this festival into the success that it was. So we want to thank her as well. So on behalf of the guests who were there, the citizens of Galt, and the steering committee for the Galt Winter Bird Festival, I want to give you my most sincere thanks.
I think that we all would like to give her an
Absolutely.
applause for your work.
Thank you, Lisa. Next, Rick Walters on water meters.
Water meters. Water meters.
Thank you, Council. Tonight I'd like to talk a little bit about water meters. Back in 2012, the water meter installation for RFP went into effect, and so from that point to now means that I have a water meter installed, and it's going on 3 years. So what I did is I went out and started checking my usage. Now my usage is about 93 gallons a day. So let's just, for clarity's sake, let's just use 100 gallons a day. For the 5 months that it's been in use, I've used 15,000 gallons divided by 748 gallons, which equals 20 units. And 20 units at $1.25 equals $25 for 5 months, plus $15 for the water meters charge. Now the city charges me flat fee of $140. So the city is actually overcharging me by $100, 5 months. So a year, it's $250. Now, if you go back to 2008 and 2009, when I was pushing for this thing, if you took that figure of $250 times 6 years, I've overpaid the city $1,500. Doesn't seem like a lot to a lot of people, but for a retired person like myself, it's a lot of money. So you're going to ask yourself, well, how did I accomplish this low usage? Well, I don't water my lawns because I took my lawns out. I have a low flow shower, and I bought a new dishwasher and washing machine. They're low flows also. Toilets are low flow, and so that helps quite a bit when people do that kind of stuff. Now, if I was to water outside my yard, which I do once a week, which is 100 gallons, and how do I know it's 100 gallons? Well, you turn your spigot on full blast, and it says 10 gallons a minute. So if I use it 10 minutes, it's 100 gallons. Very simple. So going forward, I'm kind of interested in when this mock building is supposed to happen, because there's been nothing said from this council or staff when that's going to take place. Now the March bill has already been paid, so the next bill due is going to be May, then July, then September, and then November. So there's only 4 billing periods left. So my point is, why would I go along with a mock billing when I know I'm going to save money? So I'd like to have this council or staff answering me that question. Also, I'd like to have you start counting my water use now, not later. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
What is the schedule for the mock bill?
Our tentative schedule is to roll it out for midsummer. We're still got several thousand meters to get installed, and we'd like to sort of roll out the entire community for those that are on flat rate to a meter in one fell swoop, so that everybody's getting the same information. At the same time, we don't have multiple billing starts and stops for finance to have to kind of keep track of. So we're hopeful that here by the end of March, we'll have a majority of the water meters in, can start doing test reads and do an internal mock billing quality control cycle to make sure that we're getting all the reads correctly, that we're generating appropriate bills, and work with our vendors to make sure all of those wireless systems are talking and that they're coordinating with the billing system. Then the following 2-month period, we would roll it out to the public and give them 2 billing cycles of mock billing to show them what their current flat rate is and what their bill would be if they were on metered rates. Certainly, people that are in Mr. Walters' position stand to benefit by moving faster. There are probably the majority that are going to have some water leaks or are going to have high water usage that would face sticker shock if we didn't give them some opportunity to begin doing some of the things that Mr. Walters mentioned. So we want to give them an opportunity before we hit them with some very large water bills to transition to making some of those adjustments, adjusting the sprinklers, finding water leaks, maybe installing some low flow devices before they get hit with a peak summer bill. So we're trying to balance the fairness for those that are low users that want to hurry up and those that are high users that would feel punitively acted against if we rushed out with the meter billing. So we felt it'd be fair to sort of roll everybody out in the same time frame. So at this point, we would be looking to go live with water meters this fall.
Along that same line, I spoke with Jason, city manager, recently, and as part of this, I would like to propose that we have a workshop specifically on the new water meter billing system and what type of tiered rate we're going to have, what type of base rate we're going to have, so that everybody understands what's coming out. I think that'll be real important. I'd like to have that done in a time frame such that, you know, if there are adjustments, if council decides to make adjustments, that would be able to be incorporated into the billing cycle. So I don't know, you'd need to factor something like that in is what I think that would be good for the community, so that we do have an opportunity to have the public involved as well as council.
Right. Our current plan of attack is that we have an existing metered rate, we have an existing flat rate, that we would not change the rates prior to conversion or translating people to the metered rate that a third of the town are already utilizing. We would want to collect some data as we're analyzing our rate structures this fall and collect 6 to 12 months of data before we recommended a revision to our current rates.
Which also, you know, I have a difference of opinion along those lines, because I think that we should have collected the data, or should have the data collected in order to come up with an accurate rate, rather than guessing it based on the current rate and then project that out. Because in my opinion, I have a belief that we'll probably over-collect under the current rating system. And that would be the purpose of this workshop, is to talk about what alternatives are out there and what council could discuss in concert with the public. I mean, those are my concerns. I mean, maybe I'm talking to you, but maybe I should be talking to council. I think those are legitimate concerns, and I think they should be aired.
I agree.
Can I interject
We
one?
need to look at we need to decide I mean, I don't even know what the rate structure is currently for metered rates, so if I don't know, I assume most of the public doesn't know what they're going to be charging for metered rates and what that's going to look like for them. And I know that the flat rate, I mean, I know that you're going to do the billing cycle, but are we going to know, the billing cycle's already done,
So I think as a community and as council, we need to know, under the current rate structure, we're collecting X amount of revenue. Under a metered revenue, under a metered system, we'll be collecting this amount of revenue. Because maybe we need to adjust that. If we are over collecting under a metered rate, we need to adjust that before we start collecting the money from people not after.
That's correct. I mean, it's, you know, we are in a conservation mode now. I think you said in January, we used 48% less than we did a year ago. Well, that equates to, if the rate remains the same, I mean, I'm not sure where we're going to end up. So I think there are some real legitimate issues to discuss as it relates to the rating structure. So, and usage is going to be a huge one. And I don't know how you project that without having the data, because, you know,
That's the catch-22.
Exactly.
Until you have the meters, you don't know what your usage patterns are for residential versus commercial. And we know how much water we produced, and we can back out the meters that we do have,
Right.
and then make some guesses. But you have different lot sizes and different subdivisions.
Well, I think the council, at least for one, would be interested to see what that data looks like, and, you know, what are a couple of alternatives, you know, based on differing assumptions. And I think that would be what I would be looking for personally. I believe other council members would probably be interested in the same information.
Well, I'd really like to, at some point, that we explore a way to help the citizens, do some of the things that, why am I having Mr. Walters said, those same sort of things that we look at, that making those kind of help with the community, for those kind of incentives to do. Lots of communities are doing things to help their citizens save water.
I just wanted to interject one thing. Did I hear you correctly when you said it would be another 6 months?
That before we transition existing flat rate to a live water bill is our current plan. Now, if we're going to do some of these other processes first, that could actually slow that down.
So I hope that the council is going to move forward with the people that, it doesn't take anything to take and turn that thing on. It's on now. You're receiving the information now from my water meter. So I don't understand where the rub is. I mean, tomorrow you could take and bill me for what I use. It's just that simple. I mean, I understand the data goes to global, then from global it goes to your place, Public Works, and then from Public Works it goes to finance. I don't understand that reasoning, but that's what happens. So there's a lot of things you need to get into and try to figure out these things. And for the people in my position that are going to be paying the city of Galt more money than what we should, I think you should make exceptions for those people. And I would do it soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next, Dennis Weiss.
Before we move on, is there a consensus of council to have a workshop to discuss those issues? I mean, I would put it out there as a proposal that we do hold some form of workshop.
Do we know what the issues are, though?
The ones I just discussed.
Well, we don't have,
Well, maybe we could have staff come back with a report.
okay, we don't have.
I would be good with that.
Okay.
Have staff come back
Okay, we'll do
with
that. Okay.
Let me just make a quick comment. I think one of the challenges, and I think Mr. Winkler talked about it, is we don't have the data yet, right? We're just in the process now of installing water meters. And so in order to figure out what the rate needs to be to collect the right revenue in order to operate our system, you need to collect the data, and you need to do it over a full 12-month period. Because if you do it for 2 months or 4 months or 6 months, you're doing it in potentially different times of the year, because obviously water usage is much different in July and August than it is in January and December. And so in order to do a full analysis and put together a rate structure, you're going to need more time to collect and analyze the data, which then goes counter to what Mr. Walters is talking about, which is implementing the water meters sooner. So we can certainly do that. I mean, it's easy is to take more time to analyze the water meter data. Just recognize that there's an inherent delay in then implementing those rates if you want to take the time to do that, and you can certainly do it. I'm just saying that there has to be a give and take. If you do that, then it delays it. If you want to just rush forward and put the water meters in place then there's no opportunity to analyze. And so I think what we're recommending is a reasonable amount of time to kind of analyze, educate the public, have 4 months worth of mock billings, and then get into place, and then continue to monitor it over a 6-12 month period, and then come back to the council once we have the data to make some potential revisions at that point. The council is interested in looking at something different, we're happy to take a look at that.
Well, I think that's certainly an option, but I think at the same time, to go along with the data that's actually collected from the meters, you could go back and look at, okay, what has the usage been, because we're tracking it now, year to year, at least on total gallons, and then you could make some assumptions, which we have in the past, about how much of this is residential and how much is not, realizing that it's not finite information, but it's the best estimate that we have. I think that's information that is useful in deliberating how to implement the program. I don't think that's unreasonable, and I think it would be beneficial to have that type of information in a report like that as well.
Okay.
I think we are gonna come back with that
Okay.
plan.
Good. Twice.
My name is Dennis Weiss, a longtime resident here in Galt since 1988, and probably about the last 5-6 years under Lieutenant Buckerville, we've been, as Boy Scouts, been using the range out at Twin Cities. And I threw up a little letter here to the chief, you can pass that out to all the council members, and for the use of the range for this next year. And Todd, which is our Sworn Eagle District Representative for the Boy Scout Council in this area. My main title is I'm the Shooting Sports Chair for the Sacramento Council out of Sacramento. I live here in Galt, and I'm in charge of a lot of people. We've been doing NRA training for many years in the area, and also Boy Scouts recognize that training as a universal training throughout the whole country. It's standardized, and NRA training basically is, take one step back here. I'm a certified range safety officer, chief range safety officer, which I can teach RSOs, range safety officers, to be NRA certification. I'm also an NRA rifle, shotgun, and pistol instructor. These are some of my credentials. And besides being in scouting for over 51 years. But we've been using the range out here for about the last 6 years. Mr. Lieutenant Upgrove made that arrangements for us, and we've been using the range since then. And recently, we see the new agreement that was drawn up by the city for the use of the range and stuff. And I have Todd here to talk about that, because he's been making all the arrangements for that. He'll come up and talk to you briefly about that. But basically, I want to let you know that we've had over, probably in the last 6 years, over 1,000 shooters out there, all scouters shooting out there. And our track record is, we're there for safety. We teach these kids safety points of gun safety and the correct way of following the procedures. And so we're very strict on safety while we're out there. And these kids have gone on, several have gone on to, especially in the area here, have joined shooting teams. They've also gone under the NRA Winchester marksmanship program. These are all available for the kids to shoot, and also adults. And so what we need your help in is to get over that hurdle of this year with the agreement that has some statement that we don't meet now because of some of the restrictions that are in there to continue on use of the range. We'd also like to branch that out into training for new adult leaders. To make them sure that they're certified as range officers and also NRA instructors. In the process of doing that, Todd, which is a training counselor, he'll come up and tell you in a second all his credentials, but we have offered the city, when we've had numerous police officers take that same training NRA certification over the last several years. Our biggest problem we have to go, like personally me, when I became 6 years ago as an instructor, I had to go to Reading to get all my certifications. And everybody knows how far Reading is. So we'd like to keep it more local, and the use of the range would be perfect for that, to help us out there. We appreciate it. So any questions on what I've said about it? There'll be other people coming up to answer more critical questions. Okay, thank you.
I know we did talk about this earlier, Jason, and it was a liability issue primarily, correct?
Yeah, yes, it is a liability issue.
I had a question for you regarding that. If we have a certified range master from the police department out there, does that help us with that issue?
Well, let me give you a little bit of background on this. After Lieutenant Updegrove retired from the police department, the range program was transitioned in the police department, and at that point we did an assessment as to who was utilizing the range, what kind of contracts were they required to sign, and what were our insurance requirements. The city has insurance coverage through an insurance pool for liability, and the range of our insurance coverage, depending upon the type of issue, ranges from about $5 million to $15 million in coverage. The use of the firing range by private facilities is an express exclusion under that contract. So if we have folks that are using that range and they are not law enforcement, you do not have insurance coverage for that use. What the policy provides is that we do have coverage if the range is being used by a law enforcement agency, and they also provide an additional $2 million of liability coverage, and they name our insurance pool as a additional insured. So that is the requirements in order to have liability coverage at that facility. The contract for the use of that range was revised by me over a year ago. That contract was provided to the police department. It has express language in it that says that the use of the facility by persons other than law enforcement officers and employees is expressly prohibited. The reason that contract was designed that way was to ensure that in the use of that particular facility that we were using it in a manner that operated within the insurance coverage that the city has.
Okay.
Can they provide their own insurance where they could possibly use?
So there's a couple of options that the city would have. I mean, remember that the starting point is when law enforcement agencies like the Department of Corrections or Elk Grove PD are utilizing that facility, you have between $5 and $15 million of liability coverage plus their policy. So if you went to a scenario where you wanted to make this range available for private users, then first of all, if the city so desired, you could spend public dollars in order to buy private coverage for that facility, private liability coverage. I don't know what that would cost. The users can also provide coverage. But remember that when we have law enforcement folks out there, the amount of coverage we have is the $5 to $15 million range. So my recommendation to you would be that if you want to make this range available for private users, and under the caveat that they provide liability coverage protecting the city, that they provide that same amount of coverage that you would have under a normal law enforcement use. The reason that this exclusion is in our policy with the insurance pool is because this is a high-risk operation.
Thank you.
So, and that would be the only alternative, so we don't have any idea in terms of cost.
No, I do not.
Well, yeah, I know it's a lot of money. And even with going back to, though it's yearly for, the PAL, it was $2,100 for a $2 million contract. To go up to $5 and $15 million, that's a lot of money.
I don't know if the second speaker has comments, or maybe he has some ideas that.
Right.
Todd Kimmerer?
Yeah.
I can tell.
mean, certainly, I think the council would like to continue with this, but
Yeah, thank you for your time.
Yeah.
My name is Todd Kimmer. As mentioned, I'm an NRA training counselor. I train people to be NRA certified instructors in various disciplines. And I donate most of my time to Boy Scouts to get adult leaders trained so we can take our youth out and teach them to shoot safely. And I've been working with Lieutenant Upthrow prior to this. And under the old use agreement, we had an indemnification clause where we held the city harmless. And then we provided an insurance policy. The insurance policies we bring to the table is we have a BSA policy, which we're covered under when we do BSA events, at $1 million. And I also work with a training company that provides an additional $2 million policy. So we're covered under both of those. I'm the youth director for what's called Real-Time Solutions, where we do a lot of these training commercially. My intent is not to do this commercially. My intent is solely to give kids a chance to earn their merit badge from summer camp, which is what we've been doing. And I ran afoul of this, the new use agreement, and that's why we ended up here, was to see if there was some way we could continue on with this relationship, which has been really awesome. BSA policy requires that we have one NRA instructor and one NRA certified range safety officer per 8 shooters. When I'm out on that range, I have much more than that. I generally have one instructor per 2 or 3 shooters. Safety is my main goal out there, and it always has been, especially where our youth are concerned. We're not doing any tactical training. We're not engaged in the same high-risk activity that police departments are. Generally, we're shooting bolt-action 22s at 20 yards or so. And that's the gist of it, and it's generally either seated at a bench or we have had them sitting or prone, things like that. But there's no movement. Guns stay in one position. We stay, and we move the kids away from them before we go down range. And like I said, my goal was simply to come here, see if there was some way we could continue on with this relationship, if there's something we could work out, or if there's some other additional requirements that we may be able to meet. I'm not sure where we're at there. So if you have any questions, like I said, I have the original use agreement that has the full harmless, and then I have the new agreement, which I assume you guys already have.
How many years have you been training out there?
This was the first year I sought to do a training of adult leaders. I have been just doing shooting events for the boys for the last 6 years, I'm going to say. We've been doing it bi-monthly events every 2 months. We generally have about 30 to 40 shooters in the one-day event. It's usually on a Saturday. It was the second Saturday of every other month. And we've had between 20 and 50 shooters per event without incident.
The parents of these students or these young people, do they sign a waiver?
Oh,
or do they have
absolutely. The BSA policy requires that they sign a waiver. I don't have that with me. I did not bring it with me, but there's a parent permission slip saying that we know shooting is dangerous, and they, agree to not hold counsel responsible for that. We still have insurance policies just in case. That's what insurance policies are for. And so they sign what we call a parental permission slip, which says it's okay for my son to go out shooting. Yes, we know it is a dangerous activity, and we agree to hold harmless.
Now, when you say council, you're referring to Golden Bear, correct?
I'm sorry. Not your council. We for Boy Scouts, we have what is called Golden Empire Council. Golden Empire Council encompasses everything pretty much from the county line here to just north of Reading, and from Vacaville all the way over to the state line. I am the chairman for Soaring Eagle District, which is everything pretty much South County. And I do the shooting sports activities here, but I'm also involved at the council level as seeking to get more adult leaders trained. The more adult leaders I have trained out there, the better off we are.
Okay. Any more questions from council?
Did you say you got a new agreement from the city?
Yeah, I have the current agreement that Mr. Rudolph was talking about. I have that with me, and then I have the original agreement that we had been working on. I have copies of that if you so desire.
I would like to see a copy of
Okay,
what we're
um,
asking.
Okay, here is, I have copies of the new and the old. They're almost the same, except for the new, agreement has post-certified range master, as the requirement out there, except that, I hadn't been able to find anything on the new post-certified range master. So, otherwise I'd go that route. So may I approach?
It's okay with me.
This is the original use agreement.
You have one for each?
Yeah, I have one for each there. And then this is the new use agreement.
So you're doing them all to me, huh? No, it's okay. Oops.
Can I ask you a few questions since I'm not going to sit here and read the whole thing. In this letter, when you're asking for a fee waiver, what do you mean? Were you charged before to use?
We had never been charged for use of the range before.
Okay, so the fee waivers, you want the insurance waiver, or what is?
No, the other agencies are charged $150 a day for use of the range, is my understanding. And we were simply asking to get that waived. Since we were doing it nonprofit, we were doing it just as a service to youth out there.
Sounds like the problem's bigger than that.
Right, and,
Yeah.
and we do have.
Yeah, that's the least of my concerns. If I needed to meet the fees, I could do that. It's the usage and that hurdle now that we're.
Because we do give nonprofits a one-time, but I don't know if this wouldn't probably work with the gun facility. It might, but you still, the problem is the insurance requirement.
Yes.
And those are non-negotiable, unfortunately, and I don't know if you have the wherewithal to get the insurance, not knowing how much it costs.
So under the, what you were just reading, Steve, so if it's a private, police agency, this is the way the contract is. It says, provided coverage specified in 10 above.
Yeah.
Well, where's the limits? Or are they in the contract?
Well, Mr. Randall, it says 1 million, and you told us they need 5 to 15 million?
It depends on what.
Yeah, I don't know what I'm sorry, but I don't know what you're looking at. The contract that I drafted for the police department last year had several provisions in it, and they were all expressly out of our insurance policy. First, it contained a statement that the use of the facility by persons other than law enforcement officers and employees is expressly prohibited. The second part, again, out of the insurance policy, is that there must be an indemnification provision from the using law enforcement agency. The using law enforcement agency must provide $2 million of additional insurance coverage for the city and the insurance pool, and there needs to be a qualified range master present at all times. So those were the items that were put in the new contract that I drafted over a year ago.
Now, are those the specific requirements based on our insurance carrier?
Right.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. So we can't let anybody go out there.
Correct.
Well, if you don't comply with these particular provisions, then you do not have any insurance coverage under our insurance pool. And so I drafted the contract last year so that the facility would be used within the parameters of our existing coverage. Now I want to remind the council we're under public comment right now. If this is an item where the council desires to have extended debate on it and you wish to explore things like buying private coverage outside of the insurance pool or allowing private use subject to certain parameters, then I think we ought to agendize the matter at a future meeting for that in-depth discussion.
I would suggest we do that, I think.
I agree.
I agree.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Frank Shaw, again on the gun range.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for having me here. I also have worked with these two gentlemen with Boy Scouts. I've taught over 10,000 kids firearm safety at ISE show. I am a 14-year law enforcement officer, Department of Corrections. I graduated from Post Academy in 1982. Your liability is far less with my NRA guys than law enforcement. We don't do any tactical training. I think if your guy will find out that with the NRA certifications, which is nationwide, it will be less expensive than with law enforcement. I was trained in my post by the Highway Patrol. I've been trained by SAC-SO, PD, and I've shot with numerous law enforcement agencies. I've yet to be in a law enforcement locker room that didn't have a bullet hole in it. So we do nothing but the very best training. Safety is our first rule, last rule, and all the rules in the middle. And I think that if you'll look into your insurance pool, they might be very happy to have NRA certification. I talked to 15 of our instructors for the Department of Corrections. None of them could come up with a syllabus for their post-training. Over on that table, the stack of books that are in front of you are my training. I'm a certified instructor in rifle, pistol, shotgun, black powder, rifle, pistol, and shotgun. I teach, like I said, over 10,000 kids firearm safety at the ISE show with BB guns. We have pellet guns that we use for safety. And the first and the last rule is always safety. Boy Scouts would really love to have this opportunity to use your range. It makes it real easy on us to take them out away from the general public and teach them safety. Thank you.
Could I ask you one question?
Yes, ma'am.
Are there any private ranges around? Did you say that are
There's
there
a
any ones
multitude.
that you could, like, perhaps?
There's a multitude of private ranges around. The closest one is the indoor range. It's called the gun room. It's a per fee. Last time we used it, we couldn't even have our kids in the same area. They shuffled us around. My group, which is the NRA Members Council, is looking into Mangan Range, which is in the city of Sacramento. The city is trying to divest themselves from it a little bit. So my group is trying to come in and learn how to run that and see if they can bring it up to standard. There are multiple places to shoot, but convenience is difficult. Having a range just for the Boy Scouts is difficult. Having a schedule is difficult. I'm a member of Sac Valley. The ranges there are almost always in use. So if we had a range that we could use on a regular basis, that we could teach at, I think you'll find it'd be an asset to Galt. I think you'd find it an asset to Galt's police department, and I think you'd find it as an asset to the community.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
So we will be bringing this back to council, correct? Thank you. Okay, moving on. Information and consent calendar. Do I have a motion to accept?
So moved.
Moved, second.
Call for the vote, please.
Vice Mayor Payne?
Aye.
Councilmember Hewer?
Aye.
Councilmember Campion?
Aye.
Councilmember Powers?
Aye.
Mayor Cruz?
Aye. Consent approved 5-0. Under scheduled matters, public hearing and consideration of refuse collection fee increases. Mr. Winkler.
Mayor and council members, this is the time and date set for a public hearing to consider adoption of proposed refuse collection fee increases. And Mrs. Ann Dennis, our administrative analyst and solid waste program manager, will at this time provide a brief overview of the reasons for the recommended fee increases and protest procedures to be followed pursuant to Proposition 218.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. In 1989, California adopted AB 939, which mandated local entities to develop new waste diversion programs to achieve reductions in the amounts of waste sent to landfills. As you can see from this slide, cities and counties were required to achieve a 25% diversion rate by 1995 and a 50% diversion rate by the year 2000, or face fines of up to $10,000 per day. AB 939 allowed the establishment of local fees to cover the cost of program implementation. As a result, Galt began the development of required source reduction and recycling and household hazardous waste program elements in 1991 and established a source reduction and recycling element fee to pay for the cost of development and implementation of the required program. More recently, AB 341 was enacted to establish an enhanced waste diversion goal of achieving 75% reduction by 2020. This bill also set new mandates for establishment of commercial recycling programs within local communities. The state is still developing program guidance for meeting the 75% waste diversion goal. Over the past 4 years, the cost for administering the city's refuse collection programs have exceeded the available revenues collected for this purpose. This has required the city to utilize the SRRE fee and general fund revenues to subsidize the refuse collection program costs. The graph on the bottom left of this slide illustrates the trend in solid waste enterprise fund revenues and expenditures during the past 4 fiscal years. While revenues, shown in blue, have been increasing, they have not kept pace with the increases in program costs. As a result, the city's recycling and waste diversion events for bulky waste, confidential document shredding, and household hazardous waste drop-off have been dramatically reduced over the past 2 fiscal years. This is illustrated in the special program expenditure graph on the lower right of the slide, as available funding was diverted to refuse collection program costs. These proposed fee increases will offset the funding shortfall and allow restoration of community programs. In compliance with the Right to Vote on Taxes Act of 1996, or more commonly known as Proposition 218, a notice of the proposed fee increases and tonight's public hearing was mailed to each of the city's utility customers and property owners on January 14th. The table shown to the right was included in the notice, and that table outlines the 2% increase proposed for each fee category. As an example, a residential customer receiving standard residential service consisting of a 64-gallon trash cart, a 64-gallon recycling bin or cart, and a 96-gallon green waste cart will see a 50-cent per month increase commencing with their April billing if the proposed fees are adopted. The proposed fees would increase the city's refuse collection revenue by approximately $58,000 annually. Under Proposition 218, the city cannot impose the proposed fee increases if valid protests are received from a majority of the affected properties. To be valid, a protest must be stated in written form, contain the customer or property owner's name and signature, and be received prior to the close of tonight's public hearing. Only one valid protest is allowed per parcel. If anyone is present in the audience that wishes to file a written protest, we have forms available which may be filled out and returned prior to the close of the hearing. Based upon the 7,281 parcels of record within the city of Galt, a majority protest would be established if 3,641 or more valid written protests are received. As of close of business today, the clerk's office received 4 written protests. Audience members may raise their hand at this time if they would like to receive a protest form.
So bringing this kind of to conclusion, we are recommending tonight that the council conduct the noticed public hearing, and that after you open the public hearing, it should receive any oral comments or testimony that the public may have. And then prior to closing the public hearing, that you issue a final call for any written protests. At that point, we would recommend you close the public hearing. We would give you hopefully a quick summary of any protests the count received. If there is not a majority protest, we recommend that you impose the recommended fees.
All right, so with that, we open the public hearing.
Mayor, I just make a
Quick point of clarification, I just want to make it clear that this increase is not at the request of Cowways. These are revenues that are necessary specifically for the city of Galt to administer the programs.
Thank you.
I'm glad you noted that.
Seeing no one coming up for oral comment, I'll issue the final call for written protests. Seeing none, public hearing is now closed.
Based on the number received, we haven't validated those. I would recommend that you would just declare all of the received protests to be valid, and we're clearly well short of a majority protest.
Okay, go ahead, staff.
Oh, I just had a question. In the staff report, it talks under the alternative section, it talks about the household hazardous waste facilities in Elk Grove and City of Sac that Galt residents can use. Do we have any idea what the annual cost is on that yet?
Currently, Ann, do you have those numbers? Do you have a mic down there?
Okay, so currently we...
Mike.
Oh.
Turn that on.
Well, I don't know.
No,
You're gonna have to speak up.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Currently, the city of Galt has 2 contracts. One with the city of Sacramento for $1,000 annually, and the city of Elk Grove for $3,000 annually. However, our residents are allowed to go there, and they are not turned away by either city. For the year 2014, the city of Sacramento, we spent $3,500 with them. For the year 2014, because we just went into contract with the city of Elk Grove in April, we had spent between April and June $630. Currently, in the current fiscal year, we have spent a little over $4,500.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's a convenient facility, it's close by, and it's very accessible.
Right.
And another thing to point out, the city of Elk Grove does have a tire, which is also hazardous waste. They have a tire grant. So our citizens go there and can dispose of their tires When I get the bill for the household hazardous waste, they do note that the tires from the City of Galt residents that are disposed of there, but there is no charge for that.
Okay. So the 2% increase really, when you look at the staff report, you have it broken down into what the solid waste fees are for. It has household refuse collection and disposal, source reduction and recycling program. That's really through Cal Waste. The balance would be, this 2% could be funding the household hazardous waste as well as the solid waste administration and billing. So that's really the breakdown to make it clear to everybody. Okay. That's all the questions.
Okay. Any further questions from council? Do I have a motion? Can we make the motion on all three items at once? Or actually, two.
Yeah, there's only actually one item, which is to adopt a resolution approving the proposed refuse collection fee increase effective March 1, 2015.
Okay. So item 3.
So moved.
Do I have a second? Okay. We have a motion by Councilmember Hewer, second by Councilmember Campion. Call for the vote, please.
Vice Mayor Payne? Aye. Councilmember Hewer? Aye. Councilmember Campion?
Aye.
Councilmember Powers? Aye. Mayor Cruz?
Aye. All right. Unanimous vote. Going to regular calendar, can't talk today. City Council's office, under the subject of discretionary funds. Oh, first up. I would like council to approve my remaining $700 of my discretionary funds to go towards the military banner program, if that's all right.
Fine with me. Sounds
So
good.
moved.
Second.
Wow, I'm special. I'll get 3 seconds. We've done that in. So Kurt is our primary and second by Mary Lou.
Okay.
Call for the vote, please.
Vice Mayor Payne? Aye. Councilmember Hewer? Aye. Councilmember Campion?
Aye.
Councilmember Powers? Aye. Mayor Cruz?
Aye. Next discretionary funds for Councilmember Hewer.
So last council meeting, Powell came forward and did a presentation, so I'd like to allocate my $1,000 discretionary funds to the PALS program to go towards the 2014-2015 budget. I did want to say why I was wanting to give it to the PALS program, why I was wanting to do it. Whenever I'm asked regarding the discretionary funds, I've always said that my belief is the discretionary funds need to be seed money to organizations. I think PALS is in the infancy of organizing. I think the money will help them become a successful organization for the youth of our community, and that's my reason for wanting to put forward that request.
Well said.
Do I have a motion?
So
I move.
And a second?
I'll second.
Okay. We'll give the motion to Barbara Payne and second Kurt Campion. Call for the vote, please.
Vice Mayor Payne? Aye. Councilmember Hewer? Aye. Councilmember Campion?
Aye.
Councilmember Powers? Aye. Mayor Cruz?
Aye, and very noble, thank you. Okay, next subject, ad hoc committee regarding animal control. Councilmember Powers.
I'm going to let Steve give the spiel, please.
Well, thank you. Good evening again, Mayor and council members. At the last meeting, Councilmember Powers proposed that the city establish an ad hoc committee to review the city's animal control regulations and also take a look at the animal control regulations of similar communities. Currently, the city does not have its own independent regulations. What we have done is we have incorporated the Sacramento County ordinances within our own municipal code. Just within the last couple of years, we updated that to be consistent with their current version. But as we continue to grow as a community, not all of their provisions are as well suited for this community as they might have been when we were a little bit more of a agricultural area. So what is before you for consideration this evening is a resolution that would establish an ad hoc committee for a period of 1 year. The task of the ad hoc committee would be to take a look at the animal control regulations and to make recommendations to the city council. The proposed membership of the ad hoc committee would be 2 council members, a representative of the police department designated by the police chief, because a lot of the animal control enforcement responsibility does fall on the police department. Also, the community development director would be a member of the committee, the code enforcement officer, myself, and the city manager. And I think that's it. There was a revised resolution at your place this evening, which incorporated some minor changes. And I think with that, I have nothing further to add. Councilmember Powers, is there anything else you wanted to add?
No, I just really like to look into some of the things. Like I said, I don't think we have very much control out there in animal control right now, and we'd really like to see some things like, you know, spay and neutering, licensing, rabies shots. And, you know, another thing that we have a huge abundance of is puppy mills out there, and I'd really like to see that stop.
I was surprised to see licensing of cats. I didn't know you licensed cats.
You don't. So you can scratch. No, you don't.
Well, I mean, well, some communities do in fact license cats, so it's not a recommendation that we do.
Okay.
It's just, you know, what I did is I looked at our ordinance, county ordinance, and these are the general topics that you do see within animal control ordinances. But the focus of the committee would be to take a look at all of these areas and make recommendations back to the city council. And if you do adopt the resolution forming the committee tonight, you can in fact take the secondary action of appointing 2 council members if you so desire.
Okay. Do I have a motion to adopt?
So moved.
And a second? Second. Motion by Councilmember Payne, Vice Mayor Payne, sorry.
It's okay.
And second by Councilmember Campion. Call for the vote, please.
I have a question
Go
before we
ahead.
vote. Do we currently contract with the county for animal control services, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Some of those things are coming up this year too. Correct.
You mean the contract?
Yes.
Including fees going up.
Right.
Okay.
So call for the vote, please.
So that's an area that the committee will look at?
Yes.
Okay.
We good?
Thank you.
Vice Mayor Payne?
Aye.
Councilmember Hewer?
Aye.
Councilmember Campion?
Aye.
Councilmember Powers? Aye. Mayor Cruz?
Aye, unanimous. While we're on that
Thank
topic,
you all.
I know Councilmember Powers would really like to be part of this, yes?
Yes.
And if you have no problem, I'd like to join you with it.
Was that okay with everyone else?
So moved.
Okay with me.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Do you need a full vote on that?
Yes, please.
Call for the vote, please.
Vice Mayor Payne?
Aye.
Councilmember Hewer?
Aye.
Councilmember Campion?
Aye.
Councilmember Powers? Aye. Mayor Cruz?
Aye. Okay.
Yay.
Team Animal Control is at it again. Next up, Governor's Budget Proposal Affecting Redevelopment Dissolution.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. This is actually a very timely item. The mayor and I spent a day up in Sacramento with other cities, representatives from the League of California Cities. We attended the budget subcommittee hearing and both testified on this budget trailer bill. I'll give you a brief background on it, and then maybe Mr. Mayor would like to comment on our experience up there as well. So about a month ago, the Department of Finance, the administration, issued a budget trailer bill dealing with redevelopment agency dissolution. And contained in that proposal were a number of issues and significant concerns for the City of Galt, as well as many other agencies across the state. And so this is a strong recommendation from the League of California Cities that cities oppose this bill. Like I said, many cities were represented up there today, and some of the significant concerns for us, the biggest one being we have about $7 million worth of outstanding loans that were made years ago when the city first built its industrial park to encourage development and creation of jobs. This new trailer bill puts those loans at risk. once we receive our, right now, under the current law, once we receive our finding of completion from the Department of Finance, the city is able to be repaid from the redevelopment agency for those loans. It'll take a number of years to pay that back, but those revenues would be recovered by the city. Under this proposal, that recovery is in doubt, and so the city could very well end up losing that entire $7 million worth of outstanding loans. So that is by far the biggest concern that we have as an agency. There's a number of other issues in there. The Department of Finance is wishing to limit agency's ability to file litigation lawsuits against them. You know, there's been over 209 lawsuits filed across the state by local agencies against the state. The state has lost several, they've won several, and so many of the provisions in this bill seek to change the rules of the game. Now that they're seeing that they're losing some of these, they don't like the outcomes, and so they want to change the law. So it will make it so they'll win future lawsuits and potentially undo prior losses that they've already incurred. And so we believe it's acting in very bad faith. And again, we testified, the mayor and I both testified, as well as, it was funny, there was a budget hearing, and we were lucky because our Assemblymember Cooper sits on that committee. There's 5 or 6 members on there. And so the mayor and I went up and met with him personally ahead of time this morning, talked to him and his staff about our concerns, and they opened the hearing. They had about a half-an-hour presentation from the Department of Finance, and they asked for comments. And they asked anybody in favor of that get up, and there was one person, right? The whole audience that got up in favor of it. And then anybody opposed, and had a line, you know, out the hallway down the door of about 30 or 40 officials from throughout the state, really laying into the Department of Finance. And at the end of the afternoon, it was very clear that every member of that budget subcommittee, the assembly members, were supportive of cities. And they really chastised the Department of Finance for what they were doing and told them to go back and strip out those provisions. And so we're hopeful. So if they didn't take any action, they're going to keep it open until after the May governor's budget revise, and then they'll come back and hopefully they will have worked with the League of California Cities and local agencies to craft a bill that will be supportive of local agencies, because there were some good things in the measure, in the bill, that would help agencies in the wind down, but there were a lot of bad things. And so we think that working with them, and I think the message was sent loud and clear by the assembly members that were there, so it was really encouraging, I think, from our standpoint, that we were heard, listened to, and I think we're heading in the right direction. Of course, it's never done until it's actually done. And so I did want to make the council aware, even though this action tonight is to authorize the mayor to sign the letter. He signed the letter before because we needed to go up for the hearing today. So this is kind of a retroactive authorization, but hopefully you forgive us for that.
I like the bill.
So, Mayor, I don't know if you want to add anything to that?
I think you're being generous when you said it was only 30 minutes. He was trying to eat up as much time as he could.
Yeah.
And I noted he started slowing down his speech until the chairman called him on it. Well, I can say you pretty much said it all. It's kind of interesting when you're one of the last ones to go up there and speak, and afterwards you get pulled aside by 3 assembly members saying, "A little passionate, are we?" They walked out of there. They thought they were going to walk out of there with a black eye. They walked out of there limping. So we'll keep on top of it. I guess it comes back up in May. And we will stay on top of it and make sure that they do the right thing for our city.
So they were directed to meet with League of California Cities to come back or not?
Not directly, not directly, but that was the message that was given, was, hey, this is being tabled, we're not going to take any action on this, we'll revisit it again in May. But each one of the members said, this is not going to work. You know, you need to listen to, we said, and it was funny because they had the 5 committee members, but there were other assembly members from other districts that weren't on there that came to testify as well.
Oh, really?
And Cooley was there, there was probably 4 or 5 from just throughout the state that they had heard from their cities, and they came to testify under public comment to their fellow assembly members. Well, this was a bad bill.
It is
So,
bad.
it was really good.
Very bad.
Okay, so there's a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Call for the vote, please.
Vice Mayor Payne?
Aye.
Councilmember Hewer?
Aye.
Councilmember Campion?
Aye.
Councilmember Powers?
Aye.
Mayor Cruz?
Aye, so I can sign this one now?
Yeah.
Passes 5-0. All right. Use of controlled sports facilities by the public. Mr. Solis.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Tonight I'll be discussing controlled sports facilities. A little background, in 2011, the construction of Walker Park's artificial turf was completed and was open to local youth leagues and for private rentals, but not open to the general public. Soon after this opening, the Parks and Rec Department began receiving numerous calls from the public requesting the use of the artificial field. Staff had already spent endless hours running off trespassers who had jumped the fence to gain access to the field. So in an effort to meet the needs of the citizens of Galt and try and curb the trespassing issue, staff recommended and City Council approved on January 20th, 2012 to open the artificial turf field for the public every Sunday when not reserved. Unfortunately, this did not reduce the trespassing. Over the last several months, trespassing at both Walker Park's controlled facilities has become a huge issue, with youth and young adults blatantly disregarding the locked gates and trespassing signs. Staff continues to spend numerous hours running off these trespassers and being confronted by the unscheduled users to the point of being threatened with physical harm. In most cases, this has led to staff calling the police department to have these individuals removed. When reviewing this issue, staff decided to research other controlled facilities and possibility of increasing the use of these facilities by the public to possibly help curb the trespassing issue. Now, the definition of a controlled sports facility is defined as any sports, baseball, softball, swimming, soccer, or football facility that is enclosed by a fence and locked gates. The purpose of controlled sports facilities is for the safety of the public, protection of the facility from theft and vandalism, limit the wear and tear of the fields, and to control the use of accountability of the users. Currently, the City of Galt has the Community Baseball Park. These are all controlled sports facilities. Community Baseball Park, Galt Sports Complex, Gora Aquatic Center, Veterans Field, Walker's Artificial Field, and Walker Natural Turf Fields. In the past, the Parks and Rec Department has made the decision to not have these controlled sports facilities open to the general public, but allow local youth sports groups and groups to reserve and use them or make them available for private rentals, with the exception for the Gora Aquatic Center, which is only open when staff and lifeguards are on duty for safety reasons. Staff has reviewed each facility mentioned and is recommending that Walker's Natural Turf and Veterans Field be open to the general public during the months of May through October when not reserved and weather permitting. Staff contacted the cities of Lodi, Elk Grove/CSD, and Rancho Cordova regarding their controlled sports facilities policies, and all responded that their facilities are not open to the public and that their controlled sports facilities must be reserved and rented to be used. Along with the discussion of whether to open these facilities to the public comes the discussion on the enforcement of trespassing. In an effort to provide staff with a tool in dealing with the trespassers, the City Council revised the Parks Ordinance on December 2nd, 2014 to make trespassing an administrative or criminal penalty. The proposed protocol when dealing with these trespassers is when trespassers are observed by Parks and Recreation or staff is responding to a report of trespassers, staff will escort these people off the field. Should they be confronted by the trespassers, staff will immediately call PD and have them cited for trespassing. If the trespassers return that day or in the near future, the police department may cite the violators at their discretion. And in the case of continuous violations by any offender, the police department will enforce to the full extent of the law. This report was presented to the Parks and Rec Commission on February 11, 2015, and the Commission voted 4-0 with one seat unfilled to recommend that the Council approve staff's recommendation. Staff is recommending that you accept the recommendation of the Parks and Rec Commission and direct staff to 1, open the Walker Park Natural Turf Soccer Field and Veterans Soccer Field to the general public when not otherwise used or reserved for use by local sports organizations, private rental, and weather permitting during the months of May through October, and 2, enforce the rules related to trespassing at the controlled sports facilities. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to take them at this time. Council.
Can you describe what kind of vandalism that you've incurred at any of these fields?
Currently I can probably tell you the most expensive one that we've had. We stored some equipment at the Walker Artificial Turf to basically bring the pellets back up, kind of like an aerator for an artificial turf. Somebody jumped on top of it and bent the spoke into it. We're in the process of trying to obtain quotes to repair it if it can be repaired. You know, that machinery is probably 2 years old, and I'm sure it'll be probably a couple $1,000s to repair.
Is that the only vandalism at all of the park?
We've had to take kids off the artificial turf with motorcycles. You see them abusing it with tents, soft drinks. Those are really bad for the artificial turf field. We've had an instance out at the Galt Community Park where they jumped the lock fence and took off with our cart that we use to maintain the fields, ran it into our center field fence, damaging the cart and the fence, having to be repaired at a couple $1,000s. Things like that.
Is this over a period of what, a year or
Several years.
several years?
Yeah, 2, 3.
As far as when the police come out, what kind of confrontation, if any, occurs between the trespassers and the police?
Usually there is no confrontation when a police officer is telling them to leave. It's usually with our Parks and Rec staff where, you know, hey, we need you to get off. No, I'm not getting off. Well, okay, we're going to call the police. We'll go ahead and call the police, and it just becomes an issue at that point.
Do you have a program where, say, I don't know, say a group of adults wanted to, not an organized group, but maybe a neighborhood group of adults wanted to get on the field at, say, Community Park? Is there a way that they could make arrangements and accept responsibility?
There are rental prices set to rent the facility because with it being controlled, we'd have to go in, supervise it, well, one, unlock it, supervise it, make sure they have insurance, pay the rental fee. But there are other facilities around town that, McCaffrey, you have soccer and softball, and depending on what age for baseball, you have Greer Basin that can be used. You also have Meadowview Harvey, depending on how old of a group. You also have the high schools that are available too.
And they have their fields open to the public?
At one point they were at Galt High. I'm unsure if they still are. I know they put up a new fence, so I don't know if they've locked them. I would have to check.
You said the piece of equipment that's used for aerating the rubber out at Walker was damaged. Where was it stored?
Next to the bleachers.
Is there any way of moving that to the building adjacent to the?
We currently have it at the courtyard, trying to repair it.
Okay, but any future storage?
Future storage we will not keep equipment out there.
Thank you.
Well, see, that's the shame, the bummer behind the vandalism, you know. You've got to change everything and make it inconvenient for you guys because, you know, somebody's out there doing stuff like that. I don't think that we should have to change a way because somebody's doing something. I mean, they need to be held responsible for doing that stuff.
So I guess I have a fundamental belief that our parks are owned by our community, that our facilities are owned by our community, and that the community members need to have a way to be able to use those facilities. Having facilities closed to the public, I understand part of that, but the other part that I don't understand is kind of what Councilman Payne was bringing up, and that's the idea that a way for community members to be able to reserve and utilize those facilities without being an organized group. You know, we're having a family reunion, we love to use the baseball field and have a family baseball game. And then I just think there needs to be some procedure or some way for community members to be able to reserve those facilities and utilize those facilities and still be responsible about it. I understand that, so, I mean, things like the community baseball park. I mean, we
paid as community members and as a community to build these facilities. And I really believe that they're underutilized. Having them only be utilized by organized groups that I think just doesn't meet the spirit for me of what community parks are about.
I can tell you that Walker Park, Community Baseball Park, those facilities are used constantly by our youth groups. Walker's just being used every day, several hours a day, 7 days a week, and I'm not even counting the trespassers that are using it. So I agree with you, and that's why we looked at each facility, and that's why we're recommending to open Walker's Natural Turf and Veterans to the public. In the past, it's been closed. We assess the facilities, and we believe there's low risk of vandalism to those facilities. The others, like Community Park, the sports complex, we store a lot of equipment there, tractors, backhoes, carts. We also have electrical rooms, storage rooms, concession stands, and there's a lot of areas where people could loiter without being seen by police as they drive by. So we're recommending those stay closed.
And maybe we need to look at storing our equipment elsewhere. I mean, you know, to say that we close facilities because of a storage issue doesn't make sense to me. We have storage facilities, and if it makes it a little more inconvenient, that's part of what we are here to do, is to serve the public. And so having to store the equipment off-site, if that's what we have to do to protect the equipment, then I think that's what we have to do. Okay, so I'm not sure that, in my mind, that that's a really good reason not to have facilities open. Or at least, and I'm not saying open carte blanche, I'm just saying a way for community members who are not an organized youth baseball group or organized, soccer group, for them to be able to utilize the facilities that they help pay for.
I'm going to kind of disagree with the storing stuff someplace else, because we've got, we don't have a great amount of employees, and every time somebody had an event or we had to use somebody wanted to use the concession stand or something, to have everybody take the stuff away, bring it back, take the stuff away, bring it back, that is going to be a huge cost on us as far as labor is concerned. So you got to find a happy medium somewhere for all of that, because just can't see you taking down everything and moving it every time somebody comes and goes.
Well, I'm going to have to say one more thing. I just have a problem, a visual problem of some of our citizens, especially our youth, going to a park and seeing it locked up. The other thing that we've been hearing a lot about, there's a lot of concern about our kids needing more exercise. There's a big campaign against obesity, which leads to diabetes. And I think any way that we can encourage, or at least allow, our citizens, whether they're youth or adults, to get involved in exercise, I think it's a responsibility that I think the community has to their citizens. I mean, I understand the practical part of it, that we have to look at our budgets and everything, but again, I just feel like the parks are supposed to be someplace that the citizens can go and enjoy themselves and relax, have some games, whatever.
If council accepts staff's recommendation, we'd be opening 3 fields that the public does not currently have access to. So we are opening fields. We are not closing. These facilities are already closed. We're recommending that we open 2 of them to the public.
And I think it's a move in the right direction, but I think we need to look at all of them. I mean, we're opening up 2, but there's a lot remaining closed. And so I think that it's a move in the right direction, but I think we need to continue to move in that direction. And if it's an issue of where you store equipment, then we need to look at that issue about where we store equipment. If that's what's stopping us from opening up a facility is where equipment is stored, it doesn't make sense in my mind.
That's not the only reason, the vandalism, the loitering. There are other circumstances besides the equipment.
And you're only closing too, aren't you?
No.
How many how many parks are closed?
Currently, all of these parks that I listed
There's a number of them.
Yeah.
Community baseball park, sports complex, the aquatic center, Veterans Field, and both Walker artificial and natural turf.
But when you look at each one of these parks, when you talk about the community baseball park, that is within the, inside the diamond. I mean, you still have the balance of the entire park available. You've got the tennis courts, you've got the open area, the pits, horseshoe pits. And I understand, I think I tend to agree with staff on this, because if you've got an asset, and that's what it is, it's an asset to the city, that requires fairly high maintenance to maintain it at a level to where it's going to be used, like the baseball. That's used for hardball, is my understanding, correct? You've got to maintain an infield there that is free of divots, so that players aren't hit with the errant ball on the infield.
Right.
So it's got to be smooth. You've got to chalk your line, so it all takes maintenance. And there's, I suspect, scoreboards, the PA system, and all of that sort of stuff that is, could be easily vandalized. At the same time, and that would apply to like the sports complex as well, because there's open space areas around that as well as the Gore Aquatic Center, which makes complete sense, because you don't want to have it unsupervised swimming. So I agree with that. I generally agree with that. My concern was after talking, I did talk to Armando earlier today, based on the number, and we got to talking about a number of different things, but he was giving me the numbers of students that are using our fields, or the number of players throughout the season. My concern is there any way that we can look at extending the season to maybe start in April, depending upon weather, based on the number of teams? I mean, I know everybody's fighting for practice, at least this is what I hear, for practice time or usage time, because of the properties being either reserved or I guess that's it. They'd just be reserved. There must be schedules that you have out. Is that correct?
Are you talking about a specific?
I'm talking about like the soccer fields, for example.
We have the artificial turf open year round. So currently they're practicing on that.
Okay.
While the natural grass turf, while it's resting, the bad weather, we haven't had much. But if it wasn't going to rain anymore, we'd probably open it.
Well, rather than having it set in stone in May, is it okay if we were to change that to April, weather permitting, because it would be weather permitting as well?
Absolutely.
I mean, I think that's because it all comes down to everybody wanting to use the fields, at least from what I've heard. So if we can extend that season and not harm the fields, I would be in favor of that. And I know you'll be coming forward with another report dealing with different organizations here shortly.
Yes, it'll be a youth sports organization definition.
Okay. Other than that, I was pretty much in agreement with the report. Thank you.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but as far as the artificial turf, it isn't open, it's actually available.
Yes, it is available, and it's being used, again, almost.
But the gates are not unlocked unless they've reserved.
Right. Staff will-
I just wanted to clarify that.
Staff will arrive 30 minutes prior to the scheduled time and arrive immediately after.
And how much did it cost?
Currently, it's open to the public on Sundays. We're asking that it be closed on Sundays.
And how much did it cost to put that in?
I believe it was over $800,000 for just the turf itself.
And it's good for 5 years, is that correct?
Up to 10 years.
Up to 10
They're
years.
estimating 10 years, and in 2011, the replacement cost was over $330,000.
So it doesn't, in my, excuse me, in my mind, I have to agree with Councilmember Campion. It's a no-brainer as far as the astroturf is concerned, or the artificial turf. Sorry, I'm using terms I shouldn't.
Baseball teams.
No, actually, they're
Oh.
copyrighted. My point being, if somebody, and I still haven't figured this out, how they got a motorcycle in there without going through the locks.
Well, on Sunday, it's open to the public. So we open them up, and it's not monitored.
Is there a way we can on Sunday? Because that's kind of expensive.
Well, we're recommending that it be closed.
Okay.
One of the things I remember when we voted on the AstroTurf was that it was so tough. And that was one of the selling points in spending the money to put it in. So we're going to protect it and not use it, even though the reason we put it in was because it was going to hold up.
It is being used. Again, I could run the numbers for you. I don't have them in front of me, but I guarantee it's used the majority of the year. It is almost to the point where it's overused.
One of the things that I believe is if you have people using facilities, it deters the people coming out and vandalizing because there's people there to see them. If you have just an isolated field with no one around, it is tempting to do vandalism. I would think it would be safer if there were a lot of people out there using it.
And they are. It's the times before it's scheduled is when we're having the trespassing, the damage to the property. So if the county line youth soccer arrives at 5 o'clock, people are out there at 4 o'clock before we get out there, and then we find them as we're opening the gates. They're on the field already.
The organized,
No, the trespassers.
the trespassers.
And that's why I want to open some of the other fields, the 2 other fields, veterans and the grass turf.
Any further comments or questions by council?
I would just like to see us continue to move in the direction of having facilities available for the public, for use by the public, whether it's controlled or not controlled. But I mean, I just think that that's something that, as a taxpayer and a member of the community, and I think that those facilities, as you say, they are used to a great extent when they're made available. I think what cuts down on vandalism is exactly, if it's being used by groups, then the vandalism will decrease because of that. But we're moving in the right direction. So I would make a motion to approve.
Would that include amending the months of operation to start in April?
Yes, with the amendment to start in April.
Thank you.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and amendment by Councilmember Huber and a second by Councilmember Campion. Call for the vote, please.
Vice Mayor Payne?
No.
Councilmember Hewer?
Aye.
Councilmember Campion?
Aye.
Councilmember Powers?
Aye.
Mayor Cruz?
Aye. We have a 4-1 vote with the dissenting vote being Vice Mayor Payne. On to communication, City Clerk's report. Parks and Recreation Commission appointment.
Okay, this is an appointment to the Parks and Rec Commission. This is Vice Mayor Payne's appointment for the vacancy.
Yes, I did speak to Mr. Cagle, Wesley Cagle, and he seemed to be very interested and dedicated to the youth, and I think he'll make a good member of the Parks and Rec Commission. Okay, so I would like the council to approve him.
Absolutely.
Okay, I'll notify him. And then a few items on the calendar. March 2nd, or that's already passed. March 11th, the Parks and Rec Commission meeting right here in council chambers. March 12th is the Planning Commission meeting, 6:30 here in council chambers. And that brings us to March 17th, the City Council meeting.
Okay. Moving on to comments by staff. Inez, anything? Tony?
Just real quick, it wasn't on the calendar, but a reminder of our community, the development code update workshop next Tuesday, the 10th, from 3:30 to 5:30 here in the council chambers.
Very good.
The time again?
3:30 to 5:30.
We did change it to 3:30.
Oh, to accommodate the high school board meeting.
Steve?
Primarily for Councilmember Payne, who is our champion for the Harvey Park and community garden projects. She no doubt is aware. Our contractor is working on the fences. Our first priority is to get the ball diamonds and backstops and dugouts redone. They completely stripped those fences and are in the process of preparing that along with our staff, doing some dugout preparation work. The goal being a week from Saturday to have that open for opening day, and then they'll be segueing over next door and continuing the work on the enclosure fence for the community garden. I can't guarantee the weather, and I can't guarantee other obstacles, but we're at this point on track with a requirement that, subject to whether that they complete that project by opening day for the ball diamonds and shortly thereafter for the community garden.
Good news.
Okay. Any further, Mr.
Do you have an update on the Littleton Center?
Stoves, I presume, is your inquiry, and we have selected the stove configuration, and that then dictates the sort of the BTUs that'll be necessary. We're sizing the gas lines, and we'll be getting formal quotes for installation of new gas. What is going to slow us down is we're going to have to actually get some design assistance to put together the mechanical, electrical, ventilation requirements, so we go out on a level playing field and get mechanical bids, electrical bids to put that in. So we're probably, best case, several months away from actually installing the new stoves, but we can't put the stoves in until we do all the other upgrades. So bear with us. We don't have any commercial kitchen experts on staff. We've made some inquiries of our colleagues in community development, and the four-leaf group is not really able to give us any design recommendations or assistance, so we'll probably use one of our on-call consultants to help us put together an RFP that we can put out to bid.
Is there any way that could be moved up?
We're working to accelerate it as we speak. At this point, we don't have anybody hired to do the work, so we're going to, like I say, try to go to our on-call pool and find some expertise without having to go out to bid for that, and use an on-call consultant to just help us put together a quick, not a full set of plans and specs, but to put together basically an RFP scope that we could then have the mechanicals sort of do a turnkey, permit, construct project for us, but we'd have something that puts a level bid out there for competitive bids, because we're going to be well above our informal bid amount here.
Okay.
Okay. Jason, anything else? Steve?
I just wanted to remind the members of the public that effective this Thursday, the City Council's new ordinance on the cultivation of marijuana becomes effective, which means that effective this Thursday, it will be unlawful to cultivate marijuana indoors or outdoors in the city of Galt. Police Department is prepared to enforce the ordinance. They will be spearheading our effort. Any of our residents that have a complaint regarding the cultivation of marijuana should contact the Police Department.
Very good. Comments by City Council. We'll start with Councilmember Powers.
No.
Nothing?
Nothing to say, no? Not a...
Councilmember Campbell?
Brownie.
Wow, it's going to be easy. Councilmember Hewer.
Just that City Manager Mr. Berman and I attended Delta College presentation regarding their bid for looking at a campus in the North County. And after listening to their presentation, I'm just pretty excited that the Liberty Ranch property looks really promising. But we'll see.
Vice Mayor Payne?
Well, I would say that I was very happy. I was out there looking at the fence going in and cheering, and hoping that we can get a spring garden in at the community garden. In addition to that, I want you all to start thinking of Easter bunnies and Easter eggs. The extravaganza is coming up on March the 28th. There'll be a parade, lots of fun. Hope that you'll all come out and wear your best Easter bonnet. Or bunny tail.
Or basket.
Or that too.
Bring a basket. Okay. If we have nothing else, we can adjourn.